Welcome, welcome, welcome everybody we are on the last monthly group coachathon for 2024. Can you believe it? We made it through the year. We've got to celebrate, right? Everybody celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. You've made it to the last month of the year. And when you get into the last quarter of the year, oftentimes we are looking at what did we do the prior year? Did we reach our goals in 2024? What didn't we do so that we can prepare ourselves to move into 2025 with a nice, smooth transition, especially if you've got momentum going, to keep that momentum moving yourself forward. And I mean, I've done goal planning with you guys before in the past, but if you've kept up with your goal planning throughout the year, some of us fall off that bandwagon. We get busy, we get situations in our lives that interfere with our flow, and we stop doing our goal setting, or we got to pick up and go back and do our evaluations. But it is something that everyone really, as a business owner, needs to pay attention, but not just for your business, for your life as well. For things that you're planning in your life, you want to be able to have a plan and not just live from moment to moment with no real intention at the end of the road. Because to me, that sounds kind of like danger zone and also living on the edge, which can cause a lot of stress. So I'm just going to introduce myself. I am Margene Christensen. I am a life and business coach, and I also have an affiliate business. I am an affiliate business owner. And today I'm just really, really excited to share insights with you all from a life-changing book that I've been reading called The One Thing by Gary Keller with Jay Papasan. This book has the power to revolutionize how you approach your goals, balance your priorities, and unlock your full potential. I know we're working on SMART goals, and anybody that teaches goal setting, they use the acronym SMART goals. And many people struggle with that acronym. They struggle with the idea of a SMART goal. What's a SMART goal and how do we set it up? And it's something that you really have to wrap your mind around in order to use it the way that it's designed to be used. But if you've ever felt overwhelmed, distracted, or stretched too thin, you're not alone. We've all been there, right?
Yep.
But the good news is there is a better way. By focusing on what truly matters, and according to Gary Keller, your one thing, you can achieve better results in less time, reduce stress, and live a life of purpose and fulfillment. So let's take a quick look at it from the perspective of the author. We all live in a world of endless choices, constant distraction, and overwhelming information. It's easy to fall into the trap of multitasking, thinking that doing more is the key to success. And I know I have always thought I enjoyed multitasking. I used to raise my
Right.
hand and say, I'm a multitasker and I do it well, you know. And after reading this book, I came to realize that that was all a lie. That's not what I was doing. I wasn't multitasking. And we also discover that our brain is not built for multitasking. So when you look at multitasking, you think that you're doing multiple tasks at the same time, but in reality, you can't because your brain can't do that. Your brain has to switch from whatever that thought action that you're doing to the new thought action that you're doing. Then you got to switch back to what you were doing before. So there's all these different switches going on when you're doing those tasks, and you think you're multitasking, you think you're being productive, but when in reality, you really aren't. The one thing teaches us success is not about doing everything, it is about doing the right thing at the right time and in the right moment. So hopefully you've brought your pens and your paper and you're taking notes, because the first step to cutting through the clutter is to ask yourself the focusing question. The focusing question that we're going to be looking at tonight is something that I'd like you to write that down, because I want you to remember it, and I want you to be able to learn how to use that focusing question moving forward in your business, in your life, as you move into the new year, as you close out the old year and you start thinking about where you're going for 2025. And here's the question: what is the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? And I'll say that again. What is the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? Now, this question is powerful because it narrows your focus to the action or decision that has the greatest impact, whether it's working on a project, working on a personal goal, working on a family responsibility. By identifying your one thing, you help filter out distractions and you concentrate on what truly matters. In other words, you cut through the clutter. So just imagine your workday. Instead of tackling 20 tasks, you identify the single most important task that will drive results for a business. By focusing on that one task, you're not just busy, you're productive. And the same principle applies to every area of life. So you can think about baking a cake. Okay, so if I was going to use the one thing question on baking a cake, what would be the one thing that I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? But you don't want to get tied to the word one thing. So if you think about baking a cake, what's the one thing? Well, the one thing would be get your recipe out, lay out all your ingredients, get your measuring cups out, get your measuring spoons out, get your eggs out, get all the ingredients all in one place. By doing all of that, it's going to make other things not necessary, because then the focusing of the one thing of putting that cake together is all those little steps, those little one things that you're doing in the action steps of mixing that batter up, pouring it into the pan, putting it in the oven, and baking it. So when I'm looking at the one thing, don't limit your ideas to it's just one. It could be parts of many that make up that one. And Marcy said she loves that analogy. So I just wanted to kind of give you that kind of a basis on looking at what does this mean about the one thing. I know I posted some quotes that Gary Keller has been putting out concerning the one thing, and someone responded to they really, when you talk about multitasking, she was saying she doesn't like just focusing on one thing, because then her life is bored. Her life is boredom. She likes to keep moving. She likes to stay in action. So by clarifying and using that analogy of what's the one thing that you can do that will make other things unnecessary when you're baking a cake, is all these different parts. So you want to remember your one thing could contain multiple parts. Does that make sense? Any questions? No?
No,
Now, have you ever played dominoes?
not recently, no.
Well, you play dominoes though. And dominoes can be a fun thing. You've got that number game, you've got that board, you can lay things out. But The fun thing that, we always did with the dominoes was stacking them up, them up on the table or stacking them up on the floor. And then you hit that last domino and they all start knocking each other over and you get that sequential fall of the dominoes. So when you think about that one thing is going to be that first domino that you're going to activate that will start that process to complete whatever it is that you're working on for your goal. So when you focus on the one thing, you are aligning energy and effort with your highest priority. This leads to exponential results, and Gary Keller calls this process the domino effect. So if you think about your one thing as that first domino, when you knock it down, it sets off that chain reaction that topples other dominoes, creating momentum. Small focused actions compound over time to create extraordinary results. Now, in business, this could mean dedicating your mornings to a sales call or a strategic meeting. In your personal life, it might mean spending 15 minutes a day exercising or spending quality time with a loved one. By focusing on the right activity, you achieve more in less time. Because if you're not being distracted by other things while you're focusing on that one thing, you can apply more energy to it and get better results. And one of the biggest benefits of living by your one thing is reduced stress. When you're clear about your priorities, you no longer feel the pressure to do it all. Instead, you can say no to distractions and yes to what truly matters. The one thing encourages us to practice the art of time blocking. How many of you have done time blocking or incorporate time blocking into your day?
I've attempted it.
Okay. All right.
I have not hardwired it.
Okay. Okay. Well, this means dedicating a specific uninterrupted amount of time to focus on your one thing. By protecting this time, you're taking control of your schedule, eliminating the stress of juggling competing demands. You're saying no to those distractions if you can. Now, you may be in a position where there's distractions that will come at you that you have no control over, that you have to stop whatever you're doing and adjust for that. But you can always, because you've got that time blocked out, you can always step back into that time that you've already set aside to work on that one thing. So, for example, let's say your one thing is improving your health. You can block out 30 minutes every morning for exercise and healthy meal preparation. Well, maybe so. Maybe you've set your 30 minutes aside for exercise and somebody comes and knocks on your door. So you might have to stop, get off that treadmill, or go answer the door or the phone or whatever the case may be. But if it's something that you are serious about, you can put that do not disturb sign out, or you can turn that phone off so it can't ring until you're done with your 30 minutes of exercise. By honoring this commitment, you prioritize your well being and you reduce the stress of last minute decisions. Now, Marcy says, yes, she's talking about with your one thing. Her one thing would be to have your pens and pencils out along with your planner, your notepad, and or stencils and a ruler and highlighters for setting goals along with a SMART goal chart. That's a wonderful one thing, Marcy. Yeah, that's a really good example. Now, if you're feeling overwhelmed, then you can oftentimes try to find that you're tackling too many things at one time. But as the one thing reminds us, success is sequential, not simultaneous. By focusing on your one thing, you can break down big goals into manageable steps. Start by setting a clear goal for each area of your life. It can be work, it can be your personal life, it can be family life, it can even be your spiritual life. Then ask the focusing question to identify the next step for each goal. What is that one thing that I need to focus on that may cause all else to not be necessary. And by doing that, you can break your goal down into manageable steps. Now, remember, you don't have to do everything at once. You focus on the one step that moves you closer to your goal, and you trust the rest. Trust the process, and the rest will follow. And after I started reading this book, I've been working on my website for quite a while now, with waiting for the developers to get processes ready and tested and working before I take those steps to take action to update what I need to update. And I found this very helpful and very relevant, because if that one thing that I need to have done for me to move on to that next step in my business with my website, if it's not been tested and I go ahead and process and set it up, and then find out, oh, there was some things going on wrong, that now I got to redo the whole thing, I've learned something. I mean, I don't sit there and say, "Oh man, I shouldn't have done that. I've wasted my time." I don't look at it as a wasted moment. I look at it as a teachable moment. I look at it as, well, I've done this thing, I've built this site 4 different times, but I'm not saying that I wasted my time. I am saying I've really learned a lot. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. It's like setting up a funnel. The more you set up funnels, if you can set up many funnels, practice makes perfect, because not every funnel is the same, but you have to know how to do it and set up those steps and make sure they're processing in the proper order. So doing them over and over and over just helps you to get better and better at what you're doing. But yet, if I just sit there and say, okay, my one thing is I've got courses I want to put on my website, but I've got to have a processing process connected to, integrated into my website. So if I can't take money, then why should I bother to even set up a course? Because if I can't sell it, I'm wasting my time, and I may never ever be able to do that. So that number one thing that I have to accomplish is getting a processor integrated into my website. And once that's been done and tested, then I can move forward with adding courses that I want to charge people for, or courses that I want to give them an offer of just free for being part of my community. So looking at that one thing was my number one thing. It's on my calendar. Okay, as soon as I can get PayPal integrated to my website, then I can go to that next step of adding my courses. So it took 2, 3 days before we finally were able to do that. We got it all connected. So now I'm ready for that next one thing. Whereas if I
Hmm.
set up courses ahead of time and the processor wasn't set up in there, I wouldn't be able to connect those courses to that processor, because you have to do it the steps have to be sequential. They have to be exact order. Or like I had to delete a course off my community because my PayPal was not connected yet. Now that it's connected, I can go in and legitimately set it up, get a landing page for it, and a sales page, and start making offers to my audience on my website. And by making sure that you're doing this, you're avoiding burnout, because burnout helps when we spread ourselves too thin. But when you focus on your one thing, you're channeling your energy into meaningful work that fuels your passion. Now, the one thing also emphasizes the importance of self-care, because you can't pour from an empty cup. So make your physical, emotional, and mental well-being a priority, not just your business steps, not just your business actions. Make sure you're taking care of self, because if we're not caring for self, we can't work our business. And we've got to have simple daily exercise, quality of sleep, healthy eating, and also mindful practices of replenishing our energy to help keep us at our best. You want to create daily routines that include time for your one thing and self care activities. This balance ensures that you have the energy to pursue your goals and enjoy your journey. So, staying on track with your one thing requires commitment and accountability. And Gary Keller suggests using a weekly review process to assess your progress and make adjustments as needed. And just as I was teaching during the goal setting workshops, if you're not reviewing whatever you've set up for the week on a monthly basis, there may be issues with your goal setting steps that will interrupt you reaching that goal. So you always want to be adjusting and reviewing and making those adjustments, not just lay it down in concrete and say, okay, this is the way it's going to go, because sometimes things don't always go the way that you plan them out for whatever reason. So you want to make sure you're regularly revisiting your goals and priorities and then stay aligned with your vision. It's also important to surround yourself with supportive people who understand and respect your commitment to your one thing. Share your goals with a mentor, a coach, or accountability partner to stay motivated and focused. And remember, progress is not always linear. There will be challenges along the way, but by staying committed to your one thing, you're building a life of purpose and fulfillment. So when we look at our one thing, we want to look at the big picture. Like the big picture is baking this cake. That's the big picture. But what that so that's considered the big one thing. Okay. Now you're going to look at the small one thing. What is my one thing right now? And like we looked at baking the cake, that's the overall big thing. That's the goal we want to reach. And then the smaller ones are getting all the tools out there, like Marcy says, for planning, for her goal setting for the week or for the show or for the event or whatever it is that she's working on. Get all her tools laid out, get them organized in the manner that she wants for putting that together, so that when she's done, she's got that whole event all scheduled out on her calendar, all laid out. She knows every day what's the one thing I have to do today first. There could be many one things, but you got the first one thing that you have to do before you can do that next step. Or you're just putting yourself into chaos and you're just ruffling around, wasting time trying to figure out what is that next step. I've got a presentation here I wanted to share with you. Any questions? Does it make sense? Can you see how you could incorporate using the one thing question in your business or your life, where it would fit in your life at this time? Anybody? No? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Sandra.
Yes. All of the things that the tips that you share have are very valuable in terms of getting organized and getting your business DMOs in a manner so that, as you mentioned, you're not stressed out during
Mhm.
the day trying to, what do I do next? Like, remember when one of the common things that people hear, or not people say, that when you're posting and you want to post about your business, well, what do I post about today? But to sit down and to plan that out and to have that all scheduled, that takes that, well, what do I post today? Uncertainty that removes that from your morning and have one less thing you have to be concerned about. So yes.
Yeah, that's great, Sandra, that you bring that up, because your big one thing can be to, on a weekly basis, lay out your weekly strategy for the message that wants to be presented, the value that you want to deliver in those pieces of content, so that when you start putting them all together, you know exactly where you're going. You're not sitting there, well, what should I do now? What should I pick? Should I do this? Should I do that? So that really helps to help you to keep mentally organized and in good ease and flow with low anxiety, because you know exactly what you've planned out. And as you work your strategy, then you can look at your results and adjust for the next week as to, well, these didn't go as well as I expected them to. Maybe I need to change the value. Maybe I need to change the content. Maybe I need to change the message because these other things were going really, really well, and focus on using that message, topic, content as you're working through creating content to get your audience to know, like, and trust you. Yeah, that's a really good example. I like that, Sandra. So
Thank you.
I'm gonna try sharing my screen here, and hopefully it will come out okay here. Let me try to hide me. Okay, hopefully you can see it. I want to try to get it into um, I want it full view. Let me see. There we go. How's that? Can you see my screen? My The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. Everybody can see it?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. So the core of the one thing is about simplifying your focus to achieve extraordinary results. It challenges myths about productivity, and it provides actionable strategies to align your efforts with what matters most. And I hope I was successful in delivering the idea of actionable strategies, actionable steps that don't, the words, the one thing, does not mean that it's just that one. Can't be this, can't be that. It could be multiple pieces that's incorporated into that one thing. And today we'll explore three major parts of the book: the lies, the truth, and extraordinary results. In part one, we look at the lies that they mislead and derail us. And here's that question that I had you write down. What is the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? For number one, everything matters equally. Not all tasks contribute equally to your success. Prioritize the vital few. You can use the 80-20 principle. And if you're not familiar with that, that's where out of 100%, 80% of the action steps that we take often will result in 20% of the 100% is successful. The 20%, the actions that we take, yields the income. And then you can take that down even further. You focus on the 20% of the tasks that yield 80% of the results. So it's the Pareto principle. It takes you down into those bite-sized pieces where eventually whatever you're doing, there's only a small percentage of what you're doing that's actually going to reap the positive results that you're looking for. That's just the way it is. There's nothing you can do about it. That's what happens. But you have to be doing the things. And then number two is multitasking. Multitasking truly divides your attention, and it does reduce your efficiencies, like I was talking about earlier. Like I would be working at my job, my day job as their accountant, and I'd be working on a spreadsheet, creating a report, and the phone would ring. Nobody's answering the phone. I'd have to stop what I was doing, answer the phone, either transfer the caller or try to help the caller and take time away from my duties to do that. I'd have to stop, answer the phone, take care of that, then come back. Then I'd have to figure, okay, where did I leave off on my spreadsheet? What was I doing? Try to remember where I was, if I forgot something, in order to pick up where I left off. That's what people call multitasking. That's not really multitasking. It's focusing on that one thing, which was a spreadsheet. Now I got to focus on this other thing, which is the telephone call. The two aren't even connected. They aren't even feeding each other. So you just have to stop what you're doing and make sure that the task that you're doing at hand gets all of your attention. And oftentimes when we're in situations that don't allow us to be able to do that, it's difficult to switch back and forth. And then number three, a disciplined life. Discipline is essential to form habits, but isn't sustainable as a constant state. You know, I guess you could say, maybe take, for example, the discipline of exercise. Yes, I have it on my schedule that at this time every morning I'm going to spend 15 minutes performing some form of a health benefit for my body, whether it be go for a 15-minute walk or do 15 minutes worth of Tai Chi or 15 minutes of strenuous exercise. But you have to build that habit because sometimes it can't be sustained as a constant state. First of all, when you talk about exercise, you don't want to do the exact same motions every single day because your body will not respond in the way that you want it to by doing that one type of a exercise the same day, every day, over and over again, because you have different muscles and different tendons in your body you have to be working as well. So you have to change things up. Build habits to automate key behaviors and reduce reliance on discipline. So that's where the habits come in because we aren't disciplined. We're just human beings. It's, I don't know of very many people that are really disciplined in whatever they're doing in their life. But if we can get into that repetitive motion, it takes 66 days of repetitive action to create a habit that it gets into your subconscious where now you're on autopilot and your body just knows at this time every day I'm going to be doing exercise and it just happens. You don't even think about it. It's like getting in your car and you know you're going to the grocery store. You've gone to the grocery store multiple times. You know exactly where it is. That's your intention. You just get in the car, you turn the key on and you drive to the grocery store. You don't even think about how to get there because you already know. That's a habit that's built in your subconscious. And that's what we want to try to do is work in our habits moving forward in our lives. And then number four, willpower is always on will call. Willpower is finite. It diminishes throughout the day. So tackle your most important tasks when your willpower is the strongest. And typically, our willpower is the strongest in the morning. We get up, we're refreshed, we've had a good breakfast, we've had a healthy exercise, and we feel good and we're at our peak. So you want to do the most important things that are on your list in the morning because you're at your best. And number five, living a balanced life. Balance is a myth. Instead, counterbalance by giving your focus to what matters most at the moment and align your actions with priorities rather than striving for perfect equilibrium. So you want to change your focus up so that you are focused on the moment, no distractions, and that you are in perfect alignment with the priorities that you set for the day. Now, I would say that if whatever's going on and it's something that you know it has to get done, but you're just mentally exhausted, you're physically exhausted, maybe put it off for the next day to be able to pick it up as the first thing you do for that day rather than taking your energy into doing something that you're probably going to have to do over again. So you want to pay attention to how you're balancing your life. And then number six, big is bad. Thinking big stretches possibilities and it fosters growth. But fear of failure often limits ambition by aiming high, opens doors to extraordinary results. So, big is not bad. Big is something that you want to have a big idea. You want to have that big idea, that big intention in front of you as the drive as to what you're doing for your one thing for that day, because it's that step that's taking you to that end goal that's going to help you reach that end goal. And then part two, the truth, the simple path to productivity. Yes, you heard it right. There is a simple path to productivity. By focusing on the right things, we can simplify our approach and achieve meaningful results. So again, think of your one thing as that first domino And when you knock it down, it sets off that chain reaction that topples the other dominoes, which creates momentum. A small focus actions compound over time will create extraordinary results. And I guess I could use that scenario of prospecting. You know, they've always got those numbers out there. You can make 100 calls and you might get 10 responses. That's just the numbers. But if you don't make the 100 calls, you won't get the 10 responses. So you have to make the big picture 100 calls. But the one thing that you're going to focus on is that first call, and then the second call, and then the third call, and then the fourth call, and so on and so forth. So that will help keep that momentum going as you're doing your prospecting. And then the path to productivity. The first thing is you're going to focus on the question. Again, ask yourself, what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? This helps. This question helps you to prioritize and clarify your focus, because if you're not thinking about what's the one thing that's going to drive everything, sometimes you can get lost in the daily activities of what you're doing. And then number two, your success habit. You want to build the habit of asking that focused question every day, and consistently apply the habit will lead to long-term success. And finally, number three, the path to great answers. Seek big and specific answers to create clarity and purpose. Use purposeful thinking and set stretch goals to unlock your possibilities. Now, extraordinary results and unlocking possibilities within you. Aligning your purpose. What is your purpose? Do you have a purpose? Hopefully you do. Hopefully you have done that work. You've laid that out. Why am I doing what I'm doing? What's my purpose? What do I hope to achieve someday? And then look at the priorities of what you have to make sure you're focusing on. And then look at the productivity, because that paves the way for extraordinary results. And your big one thing is your purpose, and your small one thing is the priority you take on to achieve that one thing. Now, the most productive will start with purpose. If you don't have purpose, you're probably just spinning your wheel, because your purpose is like a compass. Your purpose becomes that guiding force in determining the priority that drives actions. So think of purpose, priority, and productivity as three parts of an iceberg. And maybe you've never seen a real iceberg, but you've probably seen pictures of it, or you've seen movies like the Titanic when they hit that iceberg. But an iceberg is where there's parts of it that are sticking up out of the water. That's what you see. But you can't see what's underneath the water. And your one thing can be what's underneath that water. The top of that iceberg is the top, the goal where you're trying to get. You're trying to get to the top of that iceberg, get to the top of that mountain, but you don't know what's underneath of the the terrain, the steps you have to take, and what you have to do to get to that top. And you can think of it that way. Now, there are 6 steps to extraordinary results. And the first step is you want to live with purpose. So again, identify your why to give meaning to your action. So maybe it's been a while since you've really sat down and thought about your why. It may have changed. Your purpose may have changed over the past year, moving into 2025. Maybe the original purpose you had for 2024 was XYZ, and things were going along throughout the year. Maybe opportunities popped up in front of you. Maybe things changed. Maybe your health changed. Maybe your family situation changed, and it changed your purpose. So you'll want to revisit that again. It's probably a good idea to revisit that every quarter, is to make sure that you're still living on purpose and make sure you know what your why is and that your why is strong enough to get you out of bed in the morning and get you moving and taking action to achieve that goal. Because purpose provides clarity and it fuels perseverance. Then, number two, you want to live by priority. So, define your top priorities based on your purpose and then align daily actions with long term goals. You want to live for productivity. Time block for your one thing to ensure consistent progress. Protect your time by saying no to distractions. Give yourself permission to say no. Don't be that yes man. Don't be that person that whenever somebody reaches out and says, I need somebody to fill this slot for me. Would you be willing to do it for me? Do not say yes to everything because that just opens the door for you to end up not delivering what needs to be delivered or failing other people, not on purpose, but only say yes to those things that you know you have the time to take care of. That's in alignment with your vision, that's in alignment with your purpose, that's in alignment with your why. And then you're going to block out the time for that one thing as well to ensure that you're consistent in your process. And then protect your time again by saying no to distractions, saying no to those that want you to stop what you're doing and go do whatever. I'm not saying don't ever do it, but you have to use discernment and just remind yourself that you don't want to be that person because that yes person is the person that everybody calls because they never say no. But then that person that's the yes person at some point in their life are not going to be able to deliver and they're going to fall and you don't want to be that person. And then the fourth thing is the three commitments. Adopt a growth mindset. Now, if you don't have a growth mindset, you're going to want to find out what does that mean and how can I have a growth mindset and strive to do that. And then stay accountable to the results and consistently focus on your one thing. And then the fifth item is the four thieves. Be aware of these obstacles. Number one, the inability to say no. Number two, the fear of chaos. Number three, poor health habits. And number four, an unhelpful environment. Address these challenges to stay on track. You have the power to control your environment. Start taking control over your environment and doing what needs to be done for you. And then finally, the journey. Success is a journey and requiring persistence and adaptability. Embrace setbacks as opportunities to grow and refine your focus. I'm in a book study club right now. We're reading U Squared by Mr. Pritchett, and we're finding out that there is no such thing as failure. There is no such thing as challenges. All they are is opportunity, they're resources, and their feedback. They help us become stronger in who we are by working through those things. You don't want to run away from them, but you do want to be able to work through them because all things are possible in front of you and waiting for you to take the right action steps to get where you want to go. So, in conclusion, the one thing teaches us to simplify our lives by focusing on what truly matters. By debunking the lies, embracing the truth, and committing to purpose driven action, we unlock our potential for extraordinary results. The one thing teaches us to simplify our lives by focusing on what truly matters, by debunking the lies. Oops, I guess that's a repeat. I didn't catch that one. So ask yourself again, here's your question. What's the one thing you can do today to move you closer to your goals? And this is just kind of an example of the way to use the one thing question in your personal life. You can just ask yourself, what's the one thing I can do this week to discover or affirm? You fill in the blanks. You decide what's the one thing I can do this week to whatever you want to do in your personal life. What's this one thing in I can do today this week to discover how I can travel uh, and be gone for 10 days or have a vacation or whatever it might be. Another one could be, what's the one thing I can do in 90 days? And then again, fill in the blanks. What's the one thing I can do today to strengthen? Fill in the blank. What's the one thing I can do to find time to take care of me, eat healthy, or whatever it may be? If you work for somebody else, you're looking at your job. What's the one thing I can do today to complete whatever it is you're working on? What's the one thing I can do this month to produce what? More sales, more reports, more income. What's the one thing I can do before my next review so that I can maybe get a raise? What's the one thing I can do every day to finish my work, maybe at higher quality or on time, or to give me a chance to, leave work early or whatever it may be? Your family, what's the one thing we can do this week to improve our communications, maybe between husband and wife or children? What's the one thing we can do every week to spend more quality time together as a family? What's the one thing we can do tonight to enjoy each other, find peace, celebrate? What's the one thing we can do to make our lives better? And then if you're working with a team, you could be a building a multi-level marketing company. You could be building a team in your multi-level marketing company, or you work with teams in your day job. But in a meeting, what's one thing we can accomplish this during this meeting, within the time slot of the meeting? And then maybe in building your team, you can ask, what's the one thing I can do in the next 6 months to bring in 5 team members or bring in more revenue or whatever it might be? In planning for the next month, what's the one thing we can do now to whatever it might be? And in your department, what's the one thing I can do in the next 90 days to get us closer to our end goal as a team? And then finally, the journey. To get through the hardest journey, you need to take only one step at a time, but we must keep on stepping. That's a famous Chinese proverb. The one thing teaches us to simplify our lives by focusing on what truly matters, by debunking the lies, by embracing the truth, and committing to purpose driven action. We unlock our potential for extraordinary results. So ask yourself, what's the one thing you can do today to move you closer to your goals? Your first step is to close your eyes and imagine your life as big as it possibly can be. And you could take your time right now if you want and just close your eyes and take in a nice deep breath and let it out. And take in another breath and let it out. And as you take in this third breath, imagine your life as big as you have ever dared to dream, and then some. What does it look like? What do you see? What does it feel like? And when you see it, open your eyes and listen to my voice. Whatever you can see, you have the capacity to move toward. And when you do go for it as vast as you can possibly envision, you'll be living the biggest life you can possibly live. Trust the process. So, thank you so much for being here tonight. I appreciate everyone. And I'm hoping that you found great value. I'm hoping that you got some aha moments, maybe, or maybe a little bit more clarity on focusing on your life, moving your life forward, moving your business forward, moving your health forward, and maybe can see a way that you could use the one thing process to keep you focused and on track with whatever it is that you're looking forward to for the upcoming year and for your life. Any questions? Any aha moments? Oh, I never thought of that one before? Or it does help bring everything together, or maybe not. Anybody?
I found that one of the most important things that I can do, the one thing, is I have to have a schedule. I cannot do things haphazardly, even though I know I have to do this and this and this and this.
Mhm.
I do it in order. I
Mhm.
start out my day with my prayer time, then I do my posting, then I do my answering questions, and then in the afternoon I do my work as far as sending emails and things like that. If I don't, then I just get off track. I don't get back to it. So
Exactly.
my one thing is having the same schedule every day.
Yeah.
So I don't even have to think about it. Okay, I get out of bed, I do this, I do that.
Mhm.
And my day goes much smoother.
Yeah.
Uh, I feel like sometimes I must have forgot something because I got everything done.
Yeah.
And I surprised myself and I went back and checked. No, I did this, I did this, I did that. So it does save time. It gives you more
Exactly.
uh, time to think about what the next step is because I'm just now beginning in this new platform. And
Mhm.
there's so many things added every week.
Yeah.
I can't possibly do them all. I
Yeah.
have to schedule them later. So that's my one thing.
Yeah.
And by the way, I worked for Keller Williams Real Estate, the owner who wrote the book, Gary Keller. And so
Yeah.
I've had that book and read it several times
Yeah.
because we were required to read it as his agents.
Yeah. So you're a standing, walking truth about it does work because you've
Yes,
been doing it for years and years and years. Yeah,
yes,
it's a wonderful concept. I wish I had thought about it before because, like I was saying earlier, in the workshops, the goal setting workshops that we've been working through, using the SMART goals, I never really cared for the SMART goals. I understand the process, but to put it into a working platform, there's pieces missing, and this just seems to fit right in there with that. This is what you got to focus on and keep
right.
yourself organized. And when I started doing that with my website this last couple of weeks since I started reading the book, it's really helped me to have more free time and always knowing exactly what I'm going to be doing next because it's the one thing that if I don't do that, I can't move to the next step.
Yeah,
And so it's really, really helping me to give myself permission to sit and wait if that's what I have to do. If I have to wait for the developers to test things out, make sure it's working, that's going to save me more time in the long run. And I'll get to the end of my goal faster by doing that than trying to work through it and then have to redo everything. So, and I think sometimes that's the thing is we get impatient with the results, impatient with where we want to get to, and then we don't get there any faster than if we just did what we needed to do in the right order in the right time frame. Yeah.
gets you off track so that you're not really doing what you're doing because you're trying to do this thing that you're not ready to do yet. You need that help.
Yeah.
And I've had to do this because with my health and my computer and everything this year, I
Yeah.
just had to learn that I can't do that right now. I
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
forward and work toward it, but I can't do it at this moment. When you
Yeah.
don't have a computer that's not working, you have no choice because
Exactly.
put programs on my computer and it boiled down to the fact that I didn't have enough RAM.
Mm,
My computer couldn't hold it, and she'd come in twice a week trying to input these programs into my computer, and then we just couldn't do it. It
mm,
wouldn't happen. So I got the new computer, and everything just kind of went together. I
yeah.
mean, she comes in now. We have our 45-minute session of what I need to do, and she checks my stats and everything to make sure that I'm staying online. And it's if I didn't get a new computer, I'd still be there trying
Yeah.
to
Trying to
struggle.
make it happen. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Sandra?
The thing that I don't know if anyone have thought of this, but is it easy to identify that one thing that you need to do each day? I mean, to me, it seems that that's where the biggest challenge is in terms of applying this
Mhm.
process. So how do I where do you start identifying that one
Yeah,
thing?
yeah. Yeah, well, you have to pick one thing. Like, let's say, for example, your book. Your book is the one thing that you're trying to accomplish, that you're trying to reach that publication, to publish your book. So what does that entail? It entails probably, whatever steps it takes, and that writers have these certain steps they do. You want to do an outline, maybe do a rough draft, maybe do how many chapters, maybe do topics. All those are pieces of that one thing. And so
Mhm.
whatever you're working on today, whatever chapter you're working on today in your book, that's your number one thing, is to complete that chapter. So what am I going to do to achieve that? Well, what is it that you want to have in that chapter? So then you go to, okay, these are going to be the pieces that belong in this chapter. So then you pick that one step, that one thing that you're going to focus on till you get that piece done. And then you go to the next piece and you just keep working through those pieces till that chapter is completed. So it's parts, it's multiple parts, but it has to be in sequence for achieving. Like, you're not going to work on the end of the book before you start the first chapter, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So, if that helps, maybe align with, just as an example, like the cake. We're not
Hmm.
going to
It
we're we're
does. It does.
we're only going to
It
take,
does
the
clear
things
away.
out that we
It does
need to
clear
make
away
the
the.
cake. So what are the pieces you need to for a book? What are the pieces that you need for uh, providing quality content so people want to reach out and get to know, like, and trust you? What message do you want to deliver to those people that you're trying to reach that's important to them? If you know what that is, then your one step would be creating content that speaks to that pain, speaks to that problem that they struggle with, that they need help with. They may not even know they need help with, but because they've got that pain and you've got the answer, you talk about the pain and then what it is that you've done in your life to help improve your situation that would speak to them. Then they're raising their hand. Okay, yeah, but tell me more. Tell me more. So
Hmm.
does that help?
It does. It does. It clears away some of the cobwebs. Yes. Mm. Mhm.
Okay, yeah, I think with this, you just, like, for me, I just had to really sit down and wrap my mind around it. Because when I started reading it, okay, there can't just be one thing, but it's not literally one thing. It's the one thing, but it can have multiple pieces to it. It's
Mhm.
complete all those pieces for that one thing. Then I can move on to the next one thing.
Would it
Okay.
would it help if you're writing a book to uh, decide what each chapter would address so that you'd have that thought before you start writing that chapter, and
Well,
make sure that they're in, order the way you want it to should come through?
I did that. I did that. Unfortunately, I did that, and I ran into some problems with my execution of that. But I'm to the point now where my book, this version of my book, I have written several versions of the book, come approaching it from different book titles, only to realize that I'm writing the same thing over and over and over. But this particular approach is easier for me because I'm asking myself. um I'm approaching it from a different angle. What would I have liked to have known before beginning my caregiving journey? And that seems to be It seems to be going very well. As a matter of fact, I have 17 chapters uh done. Some they do need to be polished a bit, but the challenge is every time I think about, well, what would I have liked to have known? Oh, that would have been good to have known, And then I put that in the book, and oh, that would have been good to have known. So no, I did not. I did not when I initially started out writing it. I had an idea of what I would have liked to have known, but the more I think about what I would have liked to have learned because I have I have encountered that as part of the journey, then it keeps adding to the content rather than is there a point where you're going to cut this off and say no more? And I think I need to get to the point where I must cut it off and say no more. If not, this is going to go on indefinitely,
Yeah, it
So
can
no,
be the never ending. Yeah.
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 So now
Instead of it
I
be sequel two or sequel three as you move forward, you can start.
yeah, that I'm glad you said that because no,
Yeah.
I have not. I had not. I keep adding to it. It's like and you're going back to baking a cake. I like to go back to or use another analogy, making a dish, and you want to put a little bit of this. Oh, and then you taste it, and we can do a little bit of that, and then you taste it, and before you know it, you keep tasting, and adding to it, and you either get a great dish or you end up having something that you'd prefer if you'd left it alone.
Yeah.
Three spices behind.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think I'm on the right track now. I'm not gonna add any more. Oh, that would have been nice, because every time especially for my my morning inspirationals, I have a book on inspirationals for caregivers, and when I hear about others, their stories, oh yeah, yeah, how could I have forgotten that? So no, it's gotten to the point now where I need to just um take what it's like when you're painting the house and you have all the paint cans and you have all of the rags and everything. It looks so messy until you clear it up. So that's where I am now. The house is painted, but there are rags and there are things that needs to be picked up. There needs to, you're gonna have to go back and look at the lines and see that they're little, things that you may have missed. But the overall paint is done. The the little cleaning up is where is it's now, and that's the most boring part of it, having
Yeah.
to put away the stuff. So
Yeah. Okay, good. Good. I hope this has been helpful for you. How
it
about you,
has been.
Marcy? Did you find some good things in here or get some aha moments? I think you probably got a good idea of the concept.
All right, ladies, I'm gonna need to jump.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank
we're
you.
gonna get ready to close out anyway. Just waiting to hear from Marcy.
Marianne, it was nice seeing you again. Glad to
Yeah.
see that
Thank
uh,
you. I've
You're,
had a
have a good.
wonderful year, so I'm praying that the next year will be much easier.
Yes, for all of us and all of us
yeah.
in terms of achieving our goals. All right, guys, take care and see you again I guess in January in the new year. In the meantime, be well, and
Yeah.
have a
Don't
happy
be a
and safe
stranger.
holiday season. All right, thank you and take care.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you. Nice
Guys,
seeing you all. Bye bye.
thanks for being here, everybody. I appreciate you. Bye.
Bye.